Hello and welcome to this week's episode of The Giant Pod with me, Andy Wrintmore. My guest this week is Ashley Thompson. You might know him from the hit Netflix show, The American Barbecue Showdown. In this episode, we're going to talk about the history of barbecue, the importance of barbecue culture to the South in the States. We're going to talk about his friend Big Worm and his legacy that he's trying to keep alive through his recipes and going on the show. Talking to the show, we're going to talk about backstage stuff. We're going to talk about behind the scenes things. We're going to talk about the workings of being inside a TV production machine like that. We're talking about life after the show. We're going to talk about barbecue legends, Tootsie Timantes and Rodney Scott from the Netflix show The Chef Table. Talking about a whole host of things. Ashley was really great. He really opened my mind to a lot of barbecue things. I didn't really know a lot going into this, and now I feel like I kind of get it. Great time with this. I hope you guys enjoy it. Here it is. Ashley Thompson, what's happening, dude?
What's up, buddy?
Appreciate you coming on, spending some time with me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thanks for having me.
You look exactly as you do on the telly.
Yeah, they did a good job portraying me, man. They wanted, before we went on, they wanted a bunch of pictures of stuff that we would wear and, every day and stuff. So that's what our wardrobe was based off of.
I see. I did notice quite a lot of Carhartt in the series. Were they a sponsor? Was there a couple of sort of silent sponsors?
I don't know if it was like Carhartt sponsored them or not. More so than they just found the apron and just so happened to be Carhartt.
Right.
So it was a really, really cool apron. And I've actually tried to reach out to Carhartt.
Right.
And see if, but I mean, of course, that huge company, I never heard back from them.
I was watching something on Carhartt the other day, actually. Their beanie. They've got an iconic beanie, which is essentially just a beanie hat with the little Carhartt thing stitched on. I don't know how much it costs them to make. Probably not a lot per, unit. And they sell about 1 billion of them a year or something.
Yeah.
Or 4 million. I can't remember now, but it's like an awful lot of sales for this one little beanie.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that they, I thought they were trendy workwear, but I didn't realize that they had so much rich history in being, genuine hard wearing workwear.
They're really popular around kind of my area, the South, farming, stuff like that. That's just they're the jackets and stuff to have. So if anybody ever watches and comes across, has connections at Carhartt, send them my way. I love to talk to them. So I still have my aprons. I actually got they had 2, and we weren't supposed to come home with them. But I told them there was no way I was leaving that set without those 2 aprons. I'd pay them whatever I had to do.
Right.
But they were coming home for me. I actually have one of them that's autographed by everybody. I got everybody that was on the set to sign it. All the cast members, the judges and Rutledge and Lyric and everybody signed it. So super cool. I got that hanging up in the office. I won't ever use that one.
Right. Does it smell like set?
A little bit. It was clean. We had a wardrobe department.
Right.
On set. They did a really good job. That's probably the number one thing that everybody's asked is about the clothes.
Really?
Why we never changed our clothes on set.
Right.
And episode 1, 2, 3, 4, we're all wearing the same clothes. And it has blown like the minds of the world that we never change clothes.
Because you get sweaty.
Yeah. So the answer, the simple answer is that, the show does that on purpose. They gave us 5 or 6 sets of clothes to wear. And, you know, they had a wardrobe department. They kept everything nice and clean for us. And they do this so that everything stays the same.
Right.
For one, that's probably the biggest reason. And, you know, if you see somebody on episode 1, you automatically recognize them on episode 2.
Yeah.
You know, nothing's changed. Everything stays the same. And then 2, it makes it easier to edit, you know. So when you're watching these trailers and they want to get your attention, you know, they can show, they can take a clip from episode 5 and blend it in with episode 3.
Right.
And you wouldn't know the difference, but you still see the same people and you recognize instantly. So you know, that's the biggest reason why they do these things the way they do. And if you think like shows like MasterChef and stuff like that, you know, they're basically the same way. It's just that they're wearing white jackets. You know, they're either wearing a white jacket with black trim or red trim.
Right. I hadn't noticed that. Now I'll never unsee it.
Yeah. So I've answered that question. I bet, like, I guarantee probably 400 times.
Really?
Yeah. Nobody wants to know about how to cook this or that. It's like, why did y'all guys wear the same clothes the whole episode? I
got to tell you, I didn't even notice, but I did notice. I noticed I noticed that you're all, you know, pretty much wearing. Well, you were wearing the same stuff, but I guess there's a continuity there, and there's a comfort in it. I think for a lot of viewers, if you're binge watching.
Yeah.
But also, like you said with the trailers, they can sort of edit a narrative that maybe isn't quite how the events unfolded for a trailer and make something look far more intriguing than it may have. Yeah, which is kind of naughty, but I get it. So you say you've been asked this about 400 times. Have you been quite busy with the media stuff after the show?
Yeah, it's been nuts. You know, on September 17th, 2020, I was a normal guy, you know, that had 200 friends on Facebook and about 39 followers on Instagram. And flash forward, yeah, it's been nuts, which is super cool because I love talking to people.
Yeah,
you know, it's super cool. And the fact that it was Netflix and that it went global. I've talked to people all over the world, shared recipes and things of that sort. And that's probably the coolest part for me is just, you know, people reaching out that, and just the, you know, through barbecue. That's all, you know, that's the amazing thing about it. So
fame at last then.
You know, I don't call it fame. I tell everybody, you know, I get a lot of the, oh, I can't believe you answered back, or I can't believe you wrote me back, or, you know, and man, I'm just a normal guy. You know, I'm no different than anybody else. I just lucked out and got to cook barbecue on TV.
Have you been offered a TV show yet? Your own cooking show?
No, I would love it though. I got so caught up in the way that stuff works. You know, you don't realize it when you're watching it, and you watch these shows. I never realized it.
Right.
The amount that goes into it, the people, you know, I'll never forget that first morning early. Gosh, the sun hasn't even came up yet. And we pulled onto the set for the very first time. And you just pull up and there's this field full of cars, you know, and you're like, why are all these people here? Is this like an audience or like what's going on? And it's, you realize it's the people that work there.
Yeah.
The people that are on that set to make this thing happen. You know, trailer. It's like a mini city that's set up in the middle of nowhere, with trailers and tents and just all kinds of stuff and food trucks, you know, set up to keep everybody fed. And so it's crazy the amount of people that go into producing something like this. And that really blew my mind. And I got into it. So I would love to do some more TV in the future. If anybody would have me, I'd love to do it. It is super cool, super fun. And like I said, just see what goes into it. It'll blow your mind. It does. It's crazy.
So shows like that, they pick their contestants on quite a few points of criteria, I guess. One of them with this show, obviously, you had to be a pit master or, pretty handy and innovative in the barbecue realm. But the other one would have had to have been that you'd have to be like good for TV.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. They the whole process is just nuts. They reached out to me. I would have probably never found them. But they reached out to me, got a call one day and, hey, Los Angeles, California, we want to know if you're interested in doing a barbecue show on TV. And, at that point, it kind of, how did you even find my number? Like, is this real?
Yeah.
Sent an email. Did a little bit of research and investigating on my own, found out it was legit. Filled out an application and it's, and she told me, we called you, but it's not, that doesn't mean you're going to be on the show. We just found you and thought you might want to apply.
Right.
You go through this tedious process. It's a long, long journey. And, eventually, I guess, they told me they started out with like something like 2,000 is what I've heard, people that they had applications for.
Right.
They narrow it down. You do interviews after interviews after interviews. And, I guess, that a lot of that has to go into their decisions. But of course you got to be able to cook too.
So did you do a cooking demo for them?
Yeah, they make you prove it.
Right.
They definitely make you work for it.
Right.
They eventually, when you get far enough into it, they make you do videos of you cooking the food. They give you a list of some things that they want you to cook. You got to cook them, some pictures, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, you do gotta, you can't wing it.
Right. And, so you have to cook that for them while they're there, or do you have to do this at home and document it?
You actually do it at home.
Right.
The first 2 or 3 was at home. I want to say it's been so long now, but I think the first 2 or 3 was at home. And then they actually called me and said that we want you to cook this. And we actually have somebody in your area that we're going to send you to do a taste test.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, who's this going to be? And, it ended up being a guy not too far from my hometown that I kind of knew. I knew who he was, but I'd never been to his barbecue. He had a barbecue restaurant in town.
Right.
I'd never been there and ate there or anything, but I'd kind of heard his story. I had some mutual friends that knew of him and things of that sort. So I got an email that I had to be there at this time. Bring my. They wanted me to cook. Was it just a protein and a side?
Right.
And
so explain what a protein is for the layman.
A protein is a cut of meat, whether it be a pork butt, pork shoulder, a ham, a steak, ribeye. They're all cuts of meat. They're all proteins. And kind of in the culinary world, I guess the word meats have become proteins now. So
right.
My signature is, as you see on the show, is pulled pork. Anything, ribs, pulled pork. They're probably my 2 wheelhouses. So I did my pulled pork for him. I did a side of mac and cheese, took it up there. He seemed to love it. He said he was going to give it great reviews. So it's a very, very long process. Even when I was on the way to the airport, I still didn't know if I was going to fly to Atlanta. The flight was booked, but they told me they were going to be making cuts, so even on my way to the airport, I still didn't know if I was going to be on the show or not. They told me I want to say they were flying 15 people out to do one-on-one, like in person and things like that. And when I got there was only 10. So they had already made some cuts and didn't even send, and send people home before they even left their airport. I lucked out. I got the 10, and then we found out that there's only going to be 8 on the show. So we had 2 more to beat out. And then beat out, I don't think anybody was any better than anybody else.
Right.
It's just who they chose was best for the show.
Yeah.
We were there first night, meet everybody, had a great time. Said that the next morning we were going to get down to the nitty gritty. We're going to go see the set and things like that. And when we got up early the next morning, somewhere around 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, we were down in the lobby, and there's only 8 of us there, and that was it. They had already sent 2 people home.
Were you with these people long enough to forge some sort of relationship or friendship, or was it just like...
Yeah, it was immediate. We all went out that night and had a great dinner and met each other and heard each other's stories and where they came from. And, so yeah, we had already kind of came together and formed a friendship with each other in just a few short hours that we were there. We didn't even get to say goodbye to them. And it was just, yeah, we came and got them last night and sent them home. So it was tough, we hated to hear that. Of course, we were glad that we had made the show.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was an immediate friendship with the whole cast. I've gotten asked a lot of times, did you guys get asked to act? And no, we didn't. What you see on the show is 100% real. It's everybody's character and, characteristics in real life. That's and mannerisms, stuff like that. It is what it is. So
one of the best bits for me in the show, because you said there's, no acting. They didn't ask you, because a lot of times with reality TV, there's a little bit of scenario making, I think. The moment when you had a bit of a meltdown, the pressure got to you slightly, you almost threw the towel in, and and forgive me, I've forgotten the chap's name to your right.
Rashid
stopped what he was doing. He was I got the feeling that Rashid is a natural leader from watching that.
Oh yeah, for sure. 100%. Yeah. He was my pick. Of course, the first challenge going into it, everybody met the first night and a couple of days, and you're intimidated, by these people. It will be hard not to. These are some of the best cooks in America. And, it was, everybody talked a big game that first night, of course. So after the first episode, when it was actually like game time, let's see what you got type thing, Rashid was my pick to win it. I mean, from the get-go, I was just like, this guy can throw down. He's a great guy. Me and him are really good friends. We actually hit it off. The whole cast still very close with each other. We still talk all the time. But me and Rashid probably talk the most out of everybody.
Right.
We're really close. I've got a trip once things kind of settle down for both of us. I'm going to take a trip out there. We're going to do some filming together. Just some cell phone selfie videos and get together and have a good time and do some cooking and stuff and just see what comes about of it. And I know we've got a couple things. He's super busy. He's got his career's taken off. I got a lot going on. So next, probably after the holidays, maybe. We'll get together and kind of kind of hang out and do some filming and stuff. So it's going to be a good time. I can't wait for that.
That's amazing. That was a real defining moment for me in that show, is when because you were trying, because part of your story on the show is that you're there to preserve the legacy of your dearly departed friend Big Worm, who we'll get onto, I think, in a minute.
Yeah.
And I think you were feeling that pressure of his, I don't want to say his spirit, but your idea of his expectations of that food and what it meant. And I think it just got to you a little bit. And of course, it's probably quite hot. You've probably been filming for I don't know how many days. And Rashid was just like, stop, can't. What exactly went wrong? And what was it that he did for you? And was there anything that we didn't see that he did?
That episode was tough. Okay. If you haven't seen it, we're cooking wild game. And I'd already had a rough morning. Of course, you're super tired. You're literally these episodes, they will wipe you out. I mean, your adrenaline is just pumping for 5, 6, 7, 8 hours straight. And by the end of it, you're exhausted, and then you got to wake up early the next morning and kind of do it all over again. So super, super exhausting for one. And 2, I woke up with some bad news that morning. Kind of already put my mind in a bad place. Some news I got from back home. And it was just one of those days, it was like and we've all had them. It was those days that nothing goes right, just when you think you've seen it all, something else happens and it's just like, what next, And it was one of those things. It was one of those days. And we were cooking wild game. I got alligator and hare, which is a wild rabbit. And I wasn't very familiar with either one of the proteins or the meats, alligator or hare. So it kind of, that didn't bother me. I can get around that. And it's simple. If you've never cooked with something, you just, your frying pan's your best friend. Right. You throw a little bit of seasoning that you think would taste good on that certain object that you might be cooking. Throw it in a frying pan, whether it's a meat, vegetable, whatever it is, and fry it up real quick, taste it, and get an idea if, from there. So still intimidating. I'm doing this on, on television, cooking these things for the first time. So I decided I was going to smoke alligator, and I had to do a rabbit stew, basically. On top of that, we had ingredients that we had to use, none of which I had ever cooked with before. I think we had yuca, chayote, which is like to me, it's kind of like an apple. I don't know what it is exactly, but it tasted like a really, really sour apple. There was all kinds of stuff in that box. I decided to go with a yuca. It's kind of like a potato. And my original plan was I wanted to do these fries, like French fries, like almost like steakhouse French fries, kind of thick. And so that was my game plan for my menu, was smoked alligator, rabbit stew. I was going to do the yuca, fried French fries type things. And I was going to do the chayote. I was going to do like an apple cobbler, type thing, like an apple crisp. First thing that went wrong, my stew burned, which, if you burn a stew, that taste is really, really hard to get out. Right. You almost have to start over. So the time frame didn't allow me to start the stew over. I had to just try to get a new pot, which we're cooking it on an open fire. I'm pretty decent at cooking stew, but I've never really done it over open fire. So that was something new to me. My stew burned. I had to throw some tomato paste in it, try to take the burn taste out. That's a good way to absorb that burn taste. And just start over, basically. Get what I could out of that stew. Started in a new one. that happened. While that happened, my yuca basically turned into mush. Prime, which like you don't think of it on the show because your mind is going a million miles a minute. Hindsight now, I'm like, why didn't I just take those, mash them up, and do like a potato cake, like a fried potato cake, you know, almost like you would do with like leftover mashed potatoes or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, throw some egg in it, some flour, and just fry it up. And I don't know why that just never crossed my mind when in the million things that are going on. So I decided I was going to do like mashed potatoes with them. And that's the route I went. So I was super frustrated. And I mean, yeah, the production, they pick up on that frustration. So when they see that you're kind of having a bad day and some bad moments, there's 15 cameras. There's 15 cameras that are like literally a foot and a half away from your face. And it's just like, hey guys, man, give me just a minute. Like,
that's what they want.
Let me take a deep breath, like just kind of clear my head and then let me go, you know. But geez, like, holy cow, I cannot do this with all of you guys sitting right here in front of me. So yeah, it's tough. That's the tough part about being on TV, you know.
Yeah.
And that real moment, it was, you know, that's what I wanted. I just, give me 1 minute. Let me just clear my head. Let me just think and get back to it, you know. Come, let's go from there. So, but yeah, Rashid, he stepped in. You know, he was really a big help to me on that episode. And he come over, he gave me a hand with the alligator tail, because obviously, you know, it's really a 2-man job.
Right.
I mean, that thing was so tender, and it was, you know, to get it out, you really needed 4 sets of hands to get it over to the station. So he gave me a hand. We got that all wrapped up, got it going the best I could. And it wasn't my best cook. I mean, I barely squeaked by in that episode, but you know, he did. He came over and he really gave me a hand. And there was a lot of that. You know, you got to understand that these episodes, there's 12, 13 hours of filming in these episodes, and you get cut down to 45 minutes is what you see. So there was times that all of us had our moments. You know, mine was obviously the best one in most TV. You know, I remember no matter how frustrating it was, at the end of the day, when we all got back in a van, we had this big black van that they all transported us in back and forth from the set to the hotel. And at the end of the day, no matter how it went, we all got back in the van and said, you know what, that was fun. You know? So it was what it was. It was good times and bad times, but at the end of the day, it was still a really, really cool opportunity. You know,
one of the questions that I kept having when I was watching the show was that they count down your final 10 seconds, the hosts, and then they go, show me the meat. And everyone have to stop, and then you plate up, and you bring the food to the judges, and you take it in turns, right? How do you keep that food hot? And is there certain parts of it where you go, this has to go to the judges right now? This can't be left in a heating, some sort of heating unit or anything like that, because it will just get rubbery or whatever. How do you do that?
So, I don't know if I'm at liberty to say or not, but I'll tell you.
Go for it.
Kind of how it goes. What you don't see on camera is that we actually make 3 plates when we turn in.
Right.
Okay. So one is a judge's plate.
Yeah.
One is what they call a beauty plate, and that's the one that you'll see in the nice slow-mo pic, you know, and they do some cool photography, you know, with those. 3 is what they call the tasting plate. So what they would do is the process would, when we're done and they called time, which is real. A lot of people wanted to know, you know, I've heard conspiracy theorists, oh, it was fake, this and that. No, it was very, very real. So that the judges got a good idea of what, you know, and it was good, hot and fresh. That taster's plate is what they got.
Right.
So they got to go through them off camera and taste immediately.
Mm-hmm.
So because obviously when you're doing those tasting and you're filming the tasting.
Yeah, imagine it takes about an hour.
Yeah. It takes literally about, I'd say probably closer to 20, 30, 40 minutes a person.
Right.
You know, and there's reasons why and stuff like that. We won't get into that. But FedEx. So
I thought it was a dog's name for a minute. I was like, FedEx?
Yeah, that's my buddy Hoosier. He keeps an eye on things around here. So that's kind of how it worked, and that's how the judges had a really good idea of whose was best.
Right. And do they make detailed notes? Because you've got to then taste. So they're tasting a second plate for the filming, which I guess has been put on a hot plate or something.
Yeah.
And so they're sort of regurgitating their previous thoughts. It must be quite difficult. You know, they must be pretty disciplined with how they do that, so that they're retaining the right tastes, the right notes, or you know, from the palate and all. You know, the
yeah. They were spot on. I mean, everything, especially Melissa, she was unbelievable. You couldn't get anything past her. And like, I knew there was one episode where I cooked ribs again. It was the ribs episode. And just out of the spirit of competition, I didn't want to do the same ribs that I'd already cooked in a previous episode.
Yeah.
Even though they really liked them and they really liked that sauce that I put on them, I decided I was going to go a different route. That was stupid. I should have never done that. But you know, I knew that my sauce was too spicy, and I tried everything that I could do to try to cut it down. I put every kind of sweet that I could think of in it. I put sugar, I put brown sugar, I put honey, I put just anything I could think of that would cut the spice down a little bit. I put a little bit more tomato down in it, and I just knew I was going to get hit for that sauce, and I did. She picked right up on it, you know. So she's tough, man. She could tell you things. She would taste things, and a lot of people think it was just, oh, well, you know, she's over off camera watching and hearing what we're doing and what we're putting in it. I was putting stuff in it that I never even mentioned on camera, and she would pick up on it.
Right.
And tell me what I put in it. And, you know, when you're cooking for somebody like that, that's tough, man. That's hard to do, whether you realize it or not.
And what place did you, I mean, spoiler alert now for anyone who hasn't seen it, but you didn't win.
I didn't win. Actually finished fourth. Yeah.
Fourth is good. Fourth is great.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what's the judge's name who gave you that really, it was a really emotional speech. He took the time to.
Kevin Bledsoe.
That's it. Yeah. That's the one. I should have written these down.
He's great, man. I love Kevin, Melissa. They're great. They were great mentors just while we were there, to be able to pick their brains and stuff, you know. And meet them and be with them for, you know, people would pay thousands of dollars for an opportunity like that, just to go and hang out with them, you know, and be able to pick their brains like we were able to do while we were there. And, you know, the advice that they're able to give and stuff like that, it was worth its weight in gold. You know, so yeah, Kevin was great. I still talk to Kevin a lot, just through social media and stuff. And and keep up with what he's going on. He's got a lot going on. He's got a cookbook he's working on. So he's got some really cool things going. And I think the world of both of them. Even Rutledge and Lyric, they were great, to work with. Rutledge was really cool. I actually grew up in kind of the NASCAR community, America. And my dad was a crew chief at one time in NASCAR, and I kind of grew up in racing myself. And, so I was a little starstruck that he was there, as one of the hosts. So
that was something I wanted to tap into as well I wanted to get to the root of why you love barbecue so much, because I think I remember messaging my producer, Harry, when I was watching the show as, research. And I was like, dude loves barbecue like I love rock and roll. Do you know what I mean? It's like church for you.
Yeah, it is.
It's like a spiritual thing for you.
It is.
So where is this a cultural thing? Where were you born? What's the history of barbecue within your...
I was born in North Carolina, and
beautiful place.
North Carolina is known for two things, really. We're known for our basketball. We got the Duke UNC rivalry, probably biggest rivalry in sports here in America, and probably one of the biggest in the world, I'd say. And then you've got barbecue. That's the two things we're really known for in this state. And it's a tradition, we grew up. When I think barbecue as a kid, we had these things, we call them pig pickings in North Carolina.
Right.
And, that was when the family got together, or you were having a big event where a lot of people were coming over. Whether it be at church or some kind of function or something like that, family reunions, you would have pigs, and we would cook whole hog, is what we call them. It was a tradition. That was really the only time you got to eat barbecue, was during these pig pickings. Sometimes you were lucky enough to go to like a barbecue restaurant, but that may be every once in a while. So I kind of grew up on it and got into it at an early age. I mean, what young kid doesn't like playing with knives and fire all night, and staying up way past your bedtime.
Yeah.
So I got into it at an early age. Some of the guys from church, I remember I was probably only maybe 8, 9, 10 years old, somewhere in there. Let me and a buddy stay up all night and hang out with them at church, cook a whole pig and see how it was done from start to finish. I loved it. I was like, man, this is super cool. I want to be able to do this when I get older. I want to be one of these guys out here cooking it. I just I kind of developed from there. Started doing some whole hog cooking. That led into doing butts, the Boston butt type, cooking with pulled pork. Led into doing ribs, spare ribs, and St. Louis style ribs, baby back ribs. And then my love grew even more. I wanted to know what other parts of the country, how they were doing it. I wanted to learn how Kansas City does it. I want to learn how Texas does it, how Georgia does it, how California does it. Come up with my own, out of what I see from their styles, because every region in the United States and in the world, for that matter, has their way of doing things as far as barbecue. So that's kind of what led into my passion, was just the tradition that barbecue holds here in North Carolina. It's what we're known for, and I was just intrigued by it instantly. And I was a grandma's boy growing up,
right.
So spent a lot of time at grandma and grandpa's and stuff like that. So one of my favorite things to do when I was 3, 4, 5 years old was help grandma cook in the kitchen. all her cakes and pies and stuff like that. So I love cooking from an early age, and I never thought that I would be to the point where I could say I'd do it professionally, but here we are.
Here we are.
That's it.
And at the beginning of the show, you said something that I thought was really good, and I'd like you to explain it if you can, because I've never actually had barbecue like barbecue on the show. Barbecue here in the UK is like a hot dog and some burgers on the maybe some chicken wings or whatever. But we do have a whole hog thing, but we don't have the culture of it like you guys do.
Yeah.
And at the beginning of the show, you said something about like you've got the Methodists, the something out, and I can't remember. And then the whole. But tell me what that is. Explain the thinking behind that, because I thought that was really cool.
That was fun. I've gotten a lot of people. I've even had people send me T-shirts that they've had made.
I was going to say, put it on a shirt.
Yeah, and I may be missing out on not doing it myself. But so basically, on the show, I said I think it was down south. Barbecue is like a religion. You've got the Baptist, the Methodist, and you got the Church of the Holy Smoke. And that is it's true story, man. It is. That's what I think of when I think of barbecue. When it's commercialized now, and I think the world in general, versus 30 years ago, it is kind of commercialized, and you see a lot more barbecue restaurants, and everybody eats out more and things like that than we did say 30 years ago. And that's kind of the way it was. When I think about childhood, the way it was, we all went to church, and then we all went out to eat, and a lot of times after church it was barbecue.
So your relationship with barbecue and the food and the flavors is of great times in childhood, of spending time with your grandmother.
That's it.
Community.
Yeah. To me, when I think barbecue, I always think tradition. I think those two go hand in hand. And that doesn't mean just here in the South. That doesn't mean here in North Carolina that barbecue is a tradition. It's like I said, barbecue is a tradition all over the world. It just depends on where you're at in the world.
Yeah.
North Carolina does whole hogs, and that's kind of our traditional story. But, it's like I've talked to people down in Argentina. I talked to a guy down there. It was really cool. And we shared some recipes, and I taught him how I do things up here. And he kind of showed me his whole way of doing like whole goat and lamb and things that they're known for and the way they do it. So, and that's their tradition. He said that the recipes that he gave me had been handed down in his family for years. Barbecue is one of those foods that, it almost is. It's almost like cult-like. It's this tradition, Everybody cooks a good burger, but nobody cares about a good burger. They're a dime a dozen. But who can cook the best barbecue? And anybody will give you a burger recipe, but they won't give you the barbecue sauce recipe. I've got one in my family that's been handed down. That's you just kind of you use it. That's your thing. It's what you're known for. It's like your family shield almost, is that famous barbecue recipe. So
I've also noticed that it's a communal thing, because it seems like a lot of the time that the actual act, the cooking, the preparation of barbecue is a team thing. And that's part of the challenge of the show for you, isn't it? Is that you're doing it, it's a one-man or one-woman band, and you're having to be a barbecue superhero. You're going to have but I would assume that that's not how it's done normally. And you have your team, and it brings people together, and you've got to use 2 or 3 people to get the hog on the thing. You got to build the build the pit, and someone's got to man it and watch it, and then of course there's so much produced from hog
Yeah, yeah.
that you have to share, and it becomes a central piece of community, not just food.
Barbecue is so yeah, I'd say it's probably the most. And when we say barbecue, like you were saying earlier, even in parts of the United States, I think really anywhere outside of the South, up into Virginia, Northern Virginia, and then kind of east or west of Tennessee, in that area, barbecue is considered anything: hamburgers, hot dogs, whatever it may be. The South kind of considers barbecue as a different thing. We consider it, anything that's cooked over fire, basically using wood, smoke, coal, whatever it may be to cook with. Slow smoked in a certain way, and that's what we call barbecue. We call hot dogs and hamburgers grilling. If I'm cooking hot dogs and hamburgers, I'm grilling. I'm not barbecuing. So that's kind of a thing. That's kind of the way we look at it. And barbecue takes so long. Good barbecue takes so long, in my opinion. Now there's new methods that are coming out that you can do it a lot hotter and faster than the more traditional ways, like I do things. What we call low and slow cooking, at a low temperature and long time period. There's new methods, and that's cool. It's just not what I use.
Yeah.
I usually use traditional low, slow, and that takes a very long time. When you're talking pork butts, by the time I prepare them and stuff like that, I've got 10 hours, 10, 11 hours into them. So it doesn't make any sense to, if you're going to cook for 11 hours, you might as well cook and feed a bunch of people versus just one or two. So it does. It brings people together. That's the thing that makes it special, is it's not something that people have all the time.
Right.
Especially when when you're talking about these family get-togethers and things of that sort. That food is not like a hamburger or hot dog that was cooked up in 10 minutes. There's a lot of love that went into that barbecue. Man hours, sweat, preparation, tending fires, just a whole lot to get it to the point that it is where you're sitting there and enjoying it. It's a labor of love. It is. And I don't get, that's, to me, is where I get the enjoyment is when I've worked for 10, 15 hours preparing something and people are finally get to enjoy it. It's gone in 15 or 20 minutes. People come up to you and want to tell you how good it is. That's what does it for me. That's what puts a smile on my face more than anything.
I was watching a documentary on again on Netflix. It's the Chef's Table, the barbecue series of Chef's Table.
Great.
I'm sure you probably saw it. And they had Rodney Scott on there, who's from, I think he's from Charleston. That's North Carolina, isn't it?
He's in South Carolina, right?
Sorry.
Yeah, but not very far from me at all.
Right.
Great episode. One of my favorite episodes in that series was Rodney Scott.
Yeah.
He's an amazing cook, and the way he does whole hogs is unbelievable. I've had his cooking. It is super, super good. And I'm actually planning, me and Rashid are planning a trip down there. We've talked to Rodney. He's been in contact with him, and we're going to go down there and I hope get a chance to meet Rodney himself, and but check his place out and maybe do a little video and stuff while we're there. So I can't wait for that.
Is this a possible reconnaissance mission, Ashley, for you two to go into business and have your own restaurant?
I wish, man. Rashid's super cool guy. he's got a lot going on right now. I've got a lot going on. I will never pass up the opportunity because he's an amazing cook. Out of everybody on that show, I know, another spoiler alert. I know Rashid didn't win, but in my eyes, I think he was the biggest winner of that show, because people are going to see him and he's going to take off. He's going to have great success. I wish him nothing but the best, and everybody that was on the show. I think it's gave us all an amazing opportunity to run with and kind of, take our passion to the next level. And talking to everybody, it sounds like everybody's doing that. Rashid has got a lot going on. He's got an apron out now. He's always had a line of sauces out that he produces. He's got a beer that's coming out that's a smoked beer that he smokes himself. He smokes the hops.
Right.
I can't wait to try that. He's just the food business is going nuts for him. Miss Tina's got a website out now. I think it's TinaCanningCooks.com. Grubbs just saw he's got a food trailer coming. So like everybody's doing great and taking advantage of the show. It's super cool to see just what an opportunity of just this does for everybody.
Yeah. And what was interesting from that Rodney Scott episode was that he said that the origins of barbecue was that, as we said, that you can feed a lot of people for relatively cheap, I guess, if you're being economic about it. And there's a history of it on the slave plantations of being an effective and cheap way of feeding the workforce. Was there a barbecue culture brewing before that? Or is that the inception of what we know is as barbecue now?
I think when you look back at barbecue, I think barbecue is probably one of the earliest foods ever cooked.
Yeah.
Because like I said, when you look at the definition of barbecue, like I was saying earlier here in the South, the way we think of it is anything cooked over wood or fire.
Yeah.
Well, that's all they had dating back as far as man, really.
Yeah.
To the point where man found fire.
Yeah.
They've been cooking over fire forever. And I think a lot as far as flash forward thousands of years, when we start to colonize the United States, that was a big part of it. That was a big part of our history. Unfortunately, was slavery. And I think a lot of the history of barbecue here in the United States gets lost in that period. I watched a documentary just a couple of days ago of a young man down in South Carolina himself that's a inspiring pitmaster. They talk about they released, I think, top 10 influential barbecuers in America right now. They're all white people. I think Melissa was actually on that list. Melissa Cookston, Tuffy Stone, Myron Mixon, but you didn't see any black people. You didn't see any black pitmasters. That kind of that in the video that I was watching, he kind of was taken back by that. And there's a lot. Rodney Scott that was the coolest story of barbecue that I think I'd ever been told. My favorite part of that whole episode was, him graduating high school and having plans to go off and do these big, great things. And somebody telling him that you'll never be any more than a barbecue cook down at the, local restaurant. In a way, it was true.
Yeah.
But you could tell it was meant in a way that didn't inspire to what is currently going on. Rodney's a great guy. He's very successful. He's got a huge clientele that wants to know him. He's been all around the country cooking hogs. And I mean, just by what to me, it's it shows like you've got to follow what your passion is in life. Whatever your passion is, you got to go for it, or you're never going to be happy.
Yeah.
For me, it was, I sold cars for almost 15 years, and really thought that was the life for me. I thought that the car business, working at the dealership, that was my career. Being on the show and getting to do what you love for that long a time, that it made me realize I don't want to do this anymore. I'm wasting my time.
Yeah.
I want to pursue what I want to do. And I think if you do that, you're going to be successful. And Rodney showed that. And that was the coolest part. That was a really, really cool story to see how he took what he had in his family's business and grow it and turn it into something of his own, and just how successful he is. That's a cool story.
The other cool story, and I want to touch on the fact that you said it was a cool barbecue story. You said it was one of the best barbecue stories you've ever heard, which I thought was really interesting, because you can frame a lot of great narratives around barbecue, almost like it's not the focal point of the story. It's almost like old samurai stories or something like that, where there's an underdog, or there's a story of growth and triumph, and at the heart of that is, something like the samurai sword or the electric guitar. Do you know what I mean? And that was interesting that you can frame these things. I guess you frame them around barbecue, yeah.
Yeah, you can. I mean, just like everybody else, whatever your niche, no matter how big or small it is, success, who's been successful, so somebody like me that's been in barbecue for a long time and kind of followed the barbecue world, they know people like Melissa Cookston, who was a judge on the show. Names like Tuffy Stone, Myron Mixon, Rodney Scott. These are names that are very common in barbecue. Now, not ordinary people in the common world that are outside of that niche might not know who they are.
Yeah.
But they're, if you're in close ties to barbecue, then you automatically know who these people are. Mo Kason, Big Kevin Bledsoe. You know these names, and you look up to these people, and you admire who they are and what they've done in their careers to get and be as successful as they are in your niche. So, and I think that goes for anything, whether it be like fishing or sports and stuff like that. Who the top people are in what you keep up with
in your field. Yeah.
That's right.
Another great story from that documentary series was Tootsie Tamantes. Have you ever had her food?
I have not. I'd love to go down there and try it, though. That's an amazing story too. That was my two favorite episodes, was Rodney Scott and Tootsie on the Chef's Table series.
Yeah. And
if you haven't watched, just a background, what an amazing woman. Holy cow.
Oh, incredible.
She was, what was it, 80 in her 80s, and still works full time as a janitor at a college, cooks barbecue, and not just cooks barbecue, but does it the old fashioned way of shoveling coals, is what we like to say.
Yeah.
Where you make your own charcoal, you burn the wood in wood barrels, and you're shoveling it into pits all night long. It's hot. It's hard. It's a workout.
Yeah.
And this lady has been doing this for years, and just, it's hard for me being in my late 30s. So I couldn't imagine what it would be like to be a female 80 years old doing it.
Yeah.
But she does it. And man, I'd love to get down there and try it. I've heard good things.
And I guess we should probably talk about another great barbecue story, and I'm sure it's a great one. Big Worm.
Yeah.
Would you consider his story to be a great barbecue story as well?
Yeah. So me and Big Worm, just a little background of where we came from. Big Worm was my best friend from high school all the way on to in life. And it was one of those friends that when we met, we just kind of instantly hit it off. I remember being new in new school, having a couple classes together, and just we just immediately we were just good friends. And that carried out through after high school. We kept up. We were best friends, talked to each other, hung out just about every day. Ended up living together for a little while as roommates shortly after high school, those early 20 years, and kind of doing the bachelor pad thing for a little while. And that's really when our cooking took off. He had bought a house. I moved in, turned it into our little bachelor pad type deal. Had parties every weekend, and then we'd cook, do whole hogs, ribs, and cook some barbecue, and everybody always seemed to love it. I don't know. We just always thought maybe they'd had too much to drink, and anything tastes good then. But we kept on, and that eventually turned into us doing some barbecue competitions and getting into that world. Flash forward, kind of long story short, we got some bad news that Big Worm had actually had a brain tumor. Turns out that brain tumor was cancer, and about 6 months later, he ended up passing away. So that was tough. We were as close as brothers, many trips that we had took together and families, and it was tough losing a best friend. I've never done that before, and that was hard to do. That's hard to go through, hard to watch. So there at the end, things were getting pretty bad. We ended up taking a trip. He wanted to get out and go do something, as I think anybody would, when you get that prognosis. And somebody's put a time period on your life for you. He wanted to do something, and we at first he wanted to rent a motorhome and go all over the country. And we were on board with it. We were like, yeah, we had 3 or 4 of our friends that kind of made the commitment, and arrangements would work, and said, hey, look, we may be gone for a little while. So we kind of originally planned on that. After a little bit more preparation and thinking about it, it didn't make much sense to do that because he didn't want to be too far away from his doctor. So we decided to do a mountain trip here in North Carolina. So packed up, went to the mountains, hung out for about 3 or 4 days. It was a great time. Got a cabin up there, took some smokers, did some cooking, and hung out. It was great. It was like nothing was wrong. It was, he got around pretty good. At this point in time, he was in a scooter and couldn't walk very well and stuff like that. The cancer kind of spread, and it was affecting his body. But he could get around pretty good on a scooter and things like that. So had a great weekend. Was able to do some sightseeing and kind of hang out and go do some cool stuff while we were up there. And that Monday when we got home Sunday. That Monday he was taken to the hospital. That's the trip that he never made it back. So it was tough. But while we were up there, he mentioned he was a single guy. He was single, didn't have a wife, didn't have kids. He was worried that, his legacy was done, that kind of if he passed, that nobody would remember him. He didn't have a wife or children to, carry out his name. So that got me thinking, what can I do, to try to bring some kind of peace of mind or something, And I remember I got on the horn with my one of my graphics guys that had kind of done some logo work for us in the past, and told him an idea that I had, and I came up with changing the name of our barbecue team to Big Worm's Legacy Barbecue. And I used a picture of of him after he had his brain surgery, he was super proud of. Because he was like, I survived brain surgery. Who can say they've had brain surgery? And, had this crazy scar that went all around the front of his head.
Right.
But he was proud of it, where a lot of people would be embarrassed. Man, he wanted to go out and show that thing off. So I took the image of that picture and kind of made it into our logo. And I was able to show it to him before he passed, and he was super excited to see it. It made his day. So that's kind of flash forward. Now we've got Legacy Barbecue, which is we've got some lines of sauces and rubs that are coming out soon, and a food truck that's going to be up and running. So, it's crazy to see how that promise that I made to him, that I was going to keep his legacy, that everybody was going to know Big Worm, has come. It's gotten 1,000 times further than I ever thought it would.
Yeah. That's amazing. And it's forever on the show. It's immortalized on the show.
Yeah. I mean, that's the coolest part about it. When we started filming, that was the number one thing that I wanted to get in. I was like, look, if you can just give me 5 minutes, and they were super cool with it. They loved it, so we ran with the idea, and it's crazy now. Like I said, I've had people all over the world that have hit me up and have gotten on YouTube or watched one of my videos or something and said, hey, we cook Big Worm's ribs. And it never gets old. I will never get tired of seeing that. Just because every time I see that, I think of him and I'm thinking, man, look at this. You were worried that nobody was going to know who you were. And now a guy down in Brazil is cooking your ribs.
That's amazing. What would Worm think of the show and everything now if he was here?
One of the things we used to do back in our little bachelor pad days was there was a TV show called Barbecue Pitmasters.
Right.
And where a lot of those people that I mentioned earlier got their start, and that's where they got their fame.
Right.
They're already well known in the barbecue world, but doing that show, I mean, by far skyrocketed their careers. And we used to watch that show. That's what got us thinking, about the barbecue competitions. Where would we rank? We'd watch those shows and pick up tips. He loved reality TV. So that was one of his favorite things. So the fact that if he was still here and I was on a TV show or he was on a TV show, he would, you wouldn't be able to knock a smile off his face, because that was one of our favorite things to do was around the house was watching these reality shows, whether it be barbecue or whatever it may be.
Amazing. Wow. We've got one more thing to talk about, I think, and that's Big Worm's Legacy YouTube channel, which I watched a little bit of recently.
Yeah.
It's a charming channel. It's a little rough around the edges, but there's a charm in that, I think.
Yeah. I do have some YouTube videos up. It's Big Worm's Legacy Barbecue. You guys can check it out. It is very rough around the edges right now. It's just things that I've thrown together. My editing ability is very, very lacking. It is. It's rough around the edges, but I've tried to be as informative as I can during these videos. So please check them out. Laugh at them. They're a little. You can tell. I'm no professional video editor. I'm more professional barbecuer. Yeah. But the good news is, stay tuned to that channel, because I've got some really, really cool stuff coming up. I've got a company locally that that I'm working with that we're going to do some more professional style videos. That
Yes.
should be a little bit more easier to watch. So that's coming really soon. We've got that scheduled. They're going to come over one day, and we're going to spend a good 12 hours of nothing but filming. So they're gonna film. We're gonna do 4, 5, 6 cooks during that 12-hour video, doing more professionally, and still kind of keep the same vibe of the videos, but they're gonna look way better. It's gonna a whole lot easier for the eyes and ears.
Well, I'm going to subscribe if I haven't already, and keep an eye out for them. Tell me about when the rubs and sauces are coming out.
Yeah, so I'm working very hard. The rub's done,
Right?
but it's a process when you're going and doing this for the first time. And the sauce is not quite there. I got a test product the other day. I still got to adjust it a little bit. And it's more so getting it to your liking. And tell the bottling company what it needs more of.
Yeah.
So if you've never been in this, it's a very process. It's you've got to send them in a sample of yours. You've got to send in a weighted recipe. So it can't just be like tablespoons or milliliters or gram. You got to use exact. You got to use a gram to the 10th, milliliters, all that good stuff, and weigh it all out and send them in that recipe. They try to reproduce it, and you kind of go back and forth until you get it right. So nailed the rub. The rub is very happy with it. Just got to get the sauce right. So I'm hoping that by mid-November we'll be good, and we can throw out like a Christmas special. So and get the orders out in time for Christmas. So yeah. So that's the game plan. Still chugging along on that. When we get the sauce right, it's done.
All right, and then one final one is Instagram. Where can we find you?
Yeah, so I do most of my pictures, like food pictures and stuff, and sometimes I'll do some recipes and stuff on Instagram. It's Ashley Thompson Barbecue, just my full name, BBQ. Look me up, give me a follow on there. That's where I put most of my barbecue pictures and stuff like that up. So you can follow me there. You can follow me on Facebook, Big Worms Legacy Barbecue on Facebook, or you can look me up, Ashley Thompson. I think I still got a little bit of room left on Facebook before I got to create another page or something. So
awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure chatting to you, mate.
Absolutely. Thank you. It's great talking to you as well. And I'd love to get over there your way and do some cooking one day. So
that would be great.
Send some folks my way. We'll make it happen.
Awesome. And shout out Big Worm one more time.
Hey, thanks, buddy.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of The Giant Pod. That was Ashley Thompson, the pitmaster from the hit Netflix show, The American Barbecue Showdown. If you want to catch up with what he's doing after the show, we're going to leave a link in the show note descriptions, and you can catch up with the Netflix show in there as well. Leave us a review, share it with a friend, comment, subscribe, do everything you can. If you want to follow the show on social media, the handle is @TheGiantPod on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to follow me on Instagram, that is @Andy_S1S. This show was produced by Harry Williams, who went the whole hog with this one. See what I did there? Thanks again for listening. I will see you next week on The Giant Pod.